if you see Him. And if you don't see Him, then you worship Allah, knowing that He truly sees you. And as a side point, if Islam and Iman are mentioned individually, then each encompasses the meaning of the other. This is because one can't have Iman without Islam, and neither can you have Islam without Iman. So you mentioned just the word Islam by itself, then it also encompasses the belief system. You mentioned the word Iman by itself, then it also encompasses the outer actions. But when mentioned together, such as in this hadith of Jibreel, then Islam is manifest on the outer actions, while Iman is manifest by one's belief. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He made Iman, or the inward belief system, for the benefit of the intellect. He made Islam, the outer actions, for the benefit of the body, and He made Ihsan, purification and perfection, for the benefit of the soul. Now, if somebody goes to the hospital, if somebody gets ill, where does he go? Hospital. He knows exactly which number to dial. In some countries it's 999, in some countries it's 112.
Instructions.
Everybody knows if there is a defect, a major defect with the body, somebody breaks his arm, somebody gets run over by a car, somebody has an asthma attack, everybody knows what to do. You take the person to the hospital or you call a doctor. This is to do with the body. And we said that insan is made of 3 components: body, soul and intellect. Why is it that we know exactly what to do when we have diseases of our body and pains in the body, if you like, but we don't know what to do when we have diseases of the heart and soul? And this is a big problem among the ummah. If it is very important to pay emphasis to all these 3 components of a human being: the intellect, the body and the soul. And if someone pays more attention to one of these 3 components at the expense of the other 2, then he'll not be balanced. He won't be holistic in his approach to looking after his deen. And this is why you find some people taking care only of their intellects and delving deeply into the Islamic creed and belief system. And this is a good thing, but they ignore the aspect of purification of their souls. In the same way, others, they delve deeply into purifying their souls, or they think they are, but they ignore the Islamic belief system. And further others, they perform acts of worship with their bodies, while their hearts are devoid of any concentration or humility towards Allah. Now they have all, and this group have left out the aspect of purification of the soul. All of them are deficient in their religion. Now this series is primarily concerned with the first and perhaps most important component of man, the ruh, or the soul. So hence we will be talking, or concerned most about the purification of the soul, and with what the Prophet ﷺ in this hadith called ihsan, or perfection. And we'll talk about that more after the break, inshaAllah. Assalamu alaikum.
Many people trying to get together, but all their efforts were in vain because of ignoring or turning away from this great foundation. We see many people coming to the way of truth, following the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but later on, they get off track. What is the reason behind that? Unity is a result, it's not a cover-up. We have to be united from inside. And Allah made this clear in the Quran when He said, وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. We said that this series is about, primarily about the most important component, if you like, of man, or the ruh and the soul. And so we'll be concerned with purifying the soul and what the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith of Jibreel that we mentioned before the break, what he called ihsan. Now, before we go on to what is meant by ihsan, let's take a recap on the 3 components of a man.
The first one was Islam.
Of a man.
Of a man is the body.
Is the body?
The ruh.
The soul.
And the intellect.
And the intellect. Now tell me, Lutfi, about how is the intellect connected to one of the components of Islam?
The intellect?
The deen. Which one is it connected to?
The intellect is iman.
With iman.
Yeah.
How is it connected? How is it connected?
Because it's like in inner actions,
Inner
beliefs. Yeah.
Yes. And so this is connected with the intellect. The person has to think about these beliefs and believe them, and that comes in the intellect. Yes, and about Islam, for example, what is it connected with regards to the body?
Islam is connected to the badan, to the body.
To the body of the
because
person.
Islam is primarily concerned, in essence, with the actions.
The outer
For instance,
actions.
praying, zakat, hajj, etc.
Yeah, exactly. So one does those with
actions, with the
his
body.
body. Yeah, and ihsan.
Ihsan is connected to the soul, so that you perfect your remove the impurities and perfect your soul.
Exactly. So ihsan. So we can see how the deen of Islam is holistic in its approach to deal with a person, with a human being, an insan. Now, what is meant by ihsan, which is what we are primarily concerned with here, or tazkiyatun nufus, purification of the soul, is the ihsan of one's action, or the perfection of one's action. Ihsan literally means perfection, to make something good. This is what ihsan means. Now, the statement of the Prophet ﷺ explaining the pillar of ihsan, that you worship Allah as if you see Him, and if you do not see Him, then He truly sees you. This statement is actually a pillar of how to achieve ihsan. How to achieve ihsan. Because why? Because ihsan is actually when a person makes good his action. Makes his action good. And people differ in the ihsan of making good of their actions. So from ihsan is an obligatory portion, and then there is an ihsan which is a recommended portion. Who can tell me what the obligatory portion of ihsan that every Muslim must achieve, making good his action?
It would be that he's sincere in his action.
He has to be sincere in his action, yes.
And according to Sunnah.
And it's got to be according to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And we see this in the Quran and Sunnah. For example, the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ Actions are but by intention. And also, we see that we have to do any action according to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man amila amalan laysa alayhi amruna fahuwa rad." Whoever does an action which is not in accordance with our way, then it will be rejected. So, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ actions are but by intention, shows that for an action to be accepted, it has to have the right intention. مَنْ أَحْدَثَ فِي أَمْرِنَا هَذَا مَا لَيْسَ مِنْهُ فَهُوَ رَدْ Whoever introduces into this affair of ours that which is not from it, it will be rejected. This hadith shows us very clearly that any action that we do has to be in accordance with whose way?
Prophet ﷺ.
The way of the Prophet ﷺ. So this is the obligatory ihsan. And every single individual, every Muslim has to reach this obligatory level of ihsan. As for the extra ihsan, or the mustahab, or recommended level of ihsan, then this is to perform one's actions in the station of muraqabah, being watched, or in the station of mushahada. And we'll talk about this more. Muraqabah is the first stage. It's lower than mushahada. Mushahada is the highest level of worship that a slave of Allah can